Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this gemba360 Back to Basics training session. My name is Nehal Samra. I'm the General Counsel and Legal Director here at Kaizen Synergy Law Firm, and I'd like to welcome you all to today's session. Today's session is actually going to focus specifically on the organization profile. Now, the organization profile is effectively what we call the backbone of the Gemba system. To get the access to the organization profile, all you need to do is go to the menu bar and click on organization profile. And this will open this screen here. Now, the reason that we call it at Gemba 360 at our support desk, the backbone of the system, is essentially a lot of what you actually control in Gemba is actually managed by this section here. You can set up a whole range of functions, features that are all dependent upon this particular part of the system. It is opened only to Gemba admins. Gemba admins are the only ones that can see this, along with the legal profile and legal update section, as well as adding a new user and the likes. But the organization profile, when you click on that, will actually open this screen here. Now, once you get to this screen here, you'll see that it is designed as a dashboard and a desktop to be able to view the different folders on the system. So what do each of these folders do, and what is the importance of them? Well, let me walk you through what each one does and how it's actually set up. So first of all, we have set these up in a specific order. You will find that they are not in alphabetical order, and it is for this reason here. Essentially, when we set it up, when you click on company details, what you will find is a summary of your organization's own information. That will include the company name, ACN or ARCAV number, if you still use those, the ABN, as well as the postal address and contact person that's listed here. So we actually use this to identify who the contact person within your agency is. Often that'll be someone like the CEO, center manager, it might be a quality officer or the likes, but essentially who is the contact person within your specific agency. Now, going back, and I'll just use the menus and a mix of the menus either on the slide bar just to go up and down, or I can actually go back and look at the desktop version of it. For now, I'm just going to use the desktop version. So those are the company details. The trading name is the next section that we actually then look at. And the trading name essentially will give us, here we are here, the trading name will give us what other names your company may trade at. So it might be that, let's say, your agency has a in community health service, but you might run specific business names attached to different programs. And that's where you can add that here. Now, what these do is, together with the company registration details, gives us your governance profile for your agency. So we look at essentially what type of company you are, when you were registered, what the review date is, and usually we will make this from year to year as well too. So now that we're coming in to the new financial year, we'll generally put the review date as the following financial year. And the reason that we do that is because we actually will go through and actually review all of this before the next financial year as well too. The other things that we also look at is taxation status. Now, taxation status gives you information on GST, whether you're a registered charity or not, whether there are also any other concessions, GST, FBT, income tax, and whether you have DGR status as well. Now, what is important as well is when we look at this information, company details, trading names, company registration, and taxation status, this part of it will drive your legal updates for your governance specific updates. So if there are changes to company directorships, if there's specific statutory reporting requirements that the department wants you to follow, we will then send you out specific legal updates based on this information. The next part that we actually go to is around accreditation. And of course, you can update this being a Gemba admin. So let's say there was the aged care quality standards that my agency follows. Let's say there was also other standards on here, for example, CSO standards and the likes, or NHS, whereas the NHSQHS standards as well too. Here we are. Oh, those are the dental ones. Let me bring these other ones up. NHQSHSS. I can add those to this section here. What this does is essentially sends a notification back to our Gemba admin team to then also update what journals you actually see in this section here. So essentially, this is then starting to connect your dashboard together about what journals you would be expected to see within your dashboard under your accreditation section. The other parts that we look at is what sector you are in as well too. So there will be a lot of places that will be under health and leisure. And also if you work across multiple different services as well too. So for example, disability services and health, or you might be in education as well too. You could be an RTO or a GTO. Then again, you can update this. What this does along, which I'll say is the services section, is essentially, and you can add all the different services that you have here. What this does is then updates us to then send out key legal updates across the Commonwealth, state government, and local government laws. So anytime that those change, we will send you an update, and those updates are actually based on these first sections here, from company details, trading names, company registration, taxation status, accreditation, sector, and services. I will come back to information technology, but I have just jumped over it for now. Now, the other sections here, when we talk of supporting documents, organizational chart groups, and teams, let's have a look at these. So the supporting docs is where you can actually load in, let's say, if your constitution changes or there is something that you need to send across, then the supporting documents, you can use this section to register those documents as well. And it allows you to load them up. You can click on choose file and put in constitution or rule book, for example, and then load that information in. Now, the next part that we actually look at is around your organizational chart. So this starts to look at who's reporting to whom, and also keeps up to date if there are any changes specific to your agency. So we'll start to use this in places like the HR module. We'll also start to reference these when working through areas with you. So the organizational chart essentially allows you to place in any organizational updated chart that you have as well too. You can run these dependent on what your agency has, and basically it's up to you in how you might want it to actually look. So essentially, if I was to bring up one, for example, here we are here, and I will just bring up one for you to actually have a look at to show you how we actually do this. Essentially, if I load this in, and I'm just going to grab one from our file just to show you how this works and where and how you can actually do it. Now, if I was to bring a chart up, let me just show you what one looks like, which you would see. Let me bring up a JPEG file, and I'll call this organizational chart. Okay. Now, let's have a look. So all I'm going to do from here is bring this up for you to view. Let me just jump this out. There we go. I'm simply going to click on choose file. I'm going to go to my desktop and I'm going to grab an organizational chart. Here we are here. And I simply click on upload. Now, what will actually come up is the organizational chart that I've uploaded. And I click on save. And what you can see is the organizational chart up in front of you. And let me just bring this up to show what you will see. So what you will see in front of you is this here. And the organizational chart, and this is just something we pulled from the internet just to show you how that actually loads on there. So essentially what you can do directly from here is be able to update your own organizational chart using essentially a JPEG file. Now, the other parts that we now start to drop into is the groups and teams and also the reporting lines. Now, this is a really important section. We normally will have an all-staff team, and the all-staff team essentially covers everyone in the team. So if I wanted to bring everyone in, I simply select save and save them to the all-staff team. Now, if I wanted to create a new team, so let's say it was, I've got an executive management group here. So let's say it was a quality committee, for example, and I can see that I don't have a quality committee there. So all I do is type in the words quality committee. I can then go into here and I can select who I actually want to have on here. So let's say I'm going to have Greg Smith and Tony Blair and Dino. And I can select all those people directly from here. And you can see that they're now in the quality committee. Now, what happens from here is that, and I'm going to jump into the main dashboard. If I wanted to send a notice out, let's say to the quality committee, I could then now click on here, and here's the group that I've just created. Equally, if I also wanted to look at the permission levels for the Gemba docs, you can now see that when I go into the permission levels, and this was something that we created before, I've now got quality committee listed here as well. So I can actually now create a whole bunch of groups and teams based on who I actually have within my agency. So essentially the groups and teams are listed here, and this is how you can control permission levels and also who actually comes in and out of the team. The next section that I'm going to look at under this is called reporting matrix. Now the reporting matrix actually links who's listed to who. Okay, so you can see I've got a couple of people here that I've actually brought up, and I'm just going to click on their position, and this is who we can see here. Now, in this case, I've brought up I, so I can see I've got the risk interact risk tester, who is Kate here, who is one of the demos that we'll use. Now, from here, this reporting matrix is essentially your organizational structure. And what I mean by that is it says who reports to who. So essentially, if I had Catherine, and let's say she reports to the CEO, then I can click on the CEO position and essentially save that, and that will link that together. Now it means that as I'm going through all of these, why this is so important around the reporting matrix is that it directs reminders of what goes to whom, and also who should see what and when within your organizational structure session. So essentially the reporting matrix, if you click on that, will give you a list of who reports to whom across the organization. Now, I can see that a couple of people have just asked, what is reports to and? So in this case, I'm just going to say that Studo reports to the CEO, but he may also report to somebody else because he might have a dual reporting role. So he might also report to, let's say, the Capital Works manager. So you can actually look at having one person reporting to two different roles. Now, in this case, that isn't the case, so I'm just going to bring it back to nobody. So if it is one-to-one reporting, then that's how you will actually see it. And again, you can check those out in your organizational structure and reporting matrix. Now, the other section that we've got here is called client records, which we do ask to keep a record of. And this is mostly for legal updates that we send out. And if there's new policy directives that the department also want to send out, then we will post those here as well too. We have most of them all set on here, and we will include things like BIMs as well too. And the reason that we have this is if there is any policy updates that you need to be across, then essentially we will send those out to you. Now, the last thing that I did want to cover off was around form access and admin. Now, form access and admin is driven by what forms you have on the dashboard on the left-hand side. And that's what we are seeing here. So you can see I've got a COVID daily assessment form, workstation assessment form, COVID vaccine survey form, and the likes that all appear on the left-hand side of the dashboard that I'm just moving up and down. Now, one of those might be a feedback form, for example. So what is the difference between the team and the form administrator here? Well, for most of the time, the team basically is pulling the list from the teams that we've just created. And the teams that you have here, so let's say I've got the quality committee that I've just created. Now, in this case, what this does is gives access to all the forms and the ability to archive to the team. The form administrator will be the person that receives all the different notifications when things have been set and can also view the All Forms tab and also the Archive tab as well. Now, to show you what that looks, let me jump back to the main dashboard. Now, I'll use an example of one of the forms that I'm going to talk about, okay? And one of those forms can be the staff members requisition to hire form. So I'm now, when I go in, I am Fred Flintstone and I'm the HR compliance manager. So what I'm going to do is simply go into the forms section on here. I'm going to look at the COVID daily assessment and I'm going to mark that I want the quality committee to view this form and be able to update it and archive it. Now, when I go back to the dashboard and I click on the COVID daily assessment form, what I can see is, in fact, my forms, forms for users I manage, forms for teams that report to me, and also now all forms and also the archive tab. Whereas in another form, if I go into that, if I go into the workstation assessment form, oops, let me just pick one that doesn't have this in place, SMRC requisition form. So I can see, because I'm not part of this team here, or this form does not come to me, I can only see my forms and the forms for users I manage. So you can actually see that the organization profile, by selecting these groups, will actually be, it will determine who sees what forms and who has access to what. The only variation to this is the risk register, which we will be covering off next week, and that is around read access and read write access for staff members, but also board members as well. So those are the main things I wanted to cover off in the organization profile section for you today. As I mentioned, if you do have any questions, we will reach out to all of you and certainly make time to ensure that you are supported using the gemba360 dashboard. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Stay safe and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.